The storm doesn't ask permission. It arrives like everything else in my life has lately, sudden, loud, and determined to take whatever it can. Rain lashes the street so hard it blurs the edges of the world, turning streetlights into smears of yellow and white. My shoes are soaked through, my coat useless, my hands numb from gripping the strap of my bag too tightly. Behind me, my son whimpers. "Mom," he says softly, the way children do when they already know the answer, but hope you'll give them a better one anyway. "Where are we going?" I don't lie to him. "I don't know," I say, "but we'll be safe." I have no proof of that. Only stubborn faith and nowhere left to run. An hour ago, I still had a plan. It wasn't a good one, but it existed. A cheap motel across town, paid for with the last of my cash. A roof. A bed. One night to breathe before figuring out what tomorrow demanded. Then the card declined. Then the clerk stopped smiling. Then the rain started. I walk until my legs burn. Past neighborhoods that once felt familiar and now feel hostile. Past storefronts closed tight against the night. Past people who don't look at me because they don't want to see what desperation looks like up close. And somehow, I end up here. Everyone in the city knows this block. They just pretend they don't. The building rises at the end of the street like a warning. Dark stone, iron gates, security lights cutting through the rain. Cars parked outside that cost more than my entire life. Men standing under the awning. Suits immaculate despite the storm, eyes sharp and watchful. Mafia. No one uses the word out loud, but it hums in the air like electricity. My son tightens his grip on my hand. "Mom," he whispers. "Those men look scary." I swallow. "I know, baby. I should turn around." I don't, because fear has already taken everything else from me. The guards see me immediately. One of them steps forward, palm raised. "Wrong place," he says flatly. "I know." I reply, voice shaking despite my best efforts. "I'm sorry. Please." He looks past me to my son. Something flickers in his expression. "Move along," he says more quietly. "Now." I shake my head. I'm not asking for money. I say, or food, or favors. Rain runs down my face, mixing with something hot and humiliating. "I just need shelter." I continue. "Just one night." Silence stretches. Behind the guard, one of the men speaks into an earpiece. Another studies us too closely. My son presses into my side. "We're cold," he whispers. And that's when I break. I drop to my knees on the wet pavement, heedless of pride, of dignity, of how this looks. "Please," I say, hands flat against the ground. "I have nothing left. Just let us stay inside until the storm passes. I'll leave at dawn. I swear." The guard curses under his breath. "This isn't," he starts. "Let her speak." The voice comes from behind the gates. Calm, low, unhurried. The gates open, slowly, and the man who steps forward doesn't look like the monster my fear imagined. He's tall, white, early 40s, maybe, dressed in a dark coat that hangs heavy on his broad frame, rain beating on the fabric without bothering him. His hair is neatly styled, his face controlled, unreadable. But his eyes take everything in. Me, my son, the storm, the kneeling. "You said you need shelter," he says. I nod frantically. "Yes, please." "For one night," he repeats. "Yes." He studies my face like he's reading something written between the lines. "What's your name?" he asks. "Claire," I answer. "And this is my son, Noah." Noah peeks out from behind me, wide-eyed. The man's gaze softens just a fraction. "You know who I am?" he asks. I nod again. "Yes." "And you still came here." "I had no choice," I say honestly. Something like respect flickers in his expression. He turns slightly, speaking over his shoulder. "Get them inside." The guard stiffens. "Boss." "Now," the man says quietly. That ends it. Warmth hits us the moment we cross the threshold. Not just physical warmth, though that too, but something heavier, safer, the kind of security money buys when it's paired with power. A maid rushes forward with towels. Another man takes my bag gently, like it's fragile. I keep waiting for the catch. There has to be one. "You'll stay in the East Wing," the man says as we walk. "There are empty rooms." "Thank you," I whisper. "I'll leave early. I promise." He stops, turns to face me. "No," he says. "You'll leave when the storm ends. Not before." I nod, unable to speak. Noah is settled into a soft bed within minutes, wrapped in blankets that smell clean and expensive. His eyes droop almost immediately. "Mom." he murmurs. Are they good guys? I brush his hair back gently. They're helping us, I say. That seems enough. He falls asleep holding my hand. When I step back into the hallway, the man is waiting. My name is Luca, he says. You'll hear people call me boss. Yes, I say. You're not a burden here, he continues. Not tonight. I nod, throat tight. But, he adds, tomorrow we talk. My stomach knots. About what? I ask. About how someone like you ended up with nowhere to go, he replies. And whether one night will be enough. I expect fear to flood me. Instead, something else settles in my chest. Hope. Terrifying. Fragile. Reckless hope. I sleep lightly. The kind of sleep where you're waiting to be woken by consequences. But morning comes quietly. Sunlight filters through heavy curtains. The storm has passed, leaving the world washed clean and unfamiliar. For the first time in months, I wake without panic clawing at my throat. Breakfast is waiting. Real food. Warm. Too much. Noah eats like he hasn't eaten properly in weeks. I try not to cry over scrambled eggs. Later, I'm brought to a study. Lucas sits behind a large desk, coffee untouched. Tell me, he says calmly, how you lost everything. I hesitate. He waits. So I tell him about the business that failed, the medical bills, the ex-husband who'd vanished the moment things got hard, the eviction notice, the last string snapping in a life already fraying. I don't dramatize it. I don't beg. I just speak. When I finish, the room is silent. Luca leans back slightly, fingers steepled. You asked for one night, he says. Yes. And if I offered more, he asks. My heart stutters. Why would you? I whisper. He studies me for a long moment. Then he says something I don't expect. Because I know what it's like to be left in the rain. I leave the study shaken, confused, safe, and unaware that the choice I made last night, the door I knocked on in desperation, has already changed the direction of my life. Because I didn't just find shelter. I stepped into the protection of a man who never gives anything lightly, and who, for reasons I don't yet understand, isn't planning to let us go anytime soon. I expect strings. That's the thing about kindness when you're desperate. You brace for the moment it tightens into debt. When mercy becomes leverage. When the bill arrives. But the day passes quietly. No demands. No tests. No men watching me too closely. Just space. Noah spends the morning exploring the east wing like it's a castle. One of Luca's men shows him a small indoor pool. Another teaches him how to play chess. They treat him like he belongs there, like he isn't a problem waiting to happen. I watch from the doorway, heart tight. This isn't normal. Nothing about this should feel this gentle. Luca calls for me just before lunch. Same study, same calm. You slept, he says. Yes. And your son? He hasn't smiled like this in months. Luca nods once, like that matters to him. It does, he says quietly, reading my face too easily. I won't keep you guessing, he continues. I don't believe in charity without structure. My shoulders tense. Then tell me the structure. I say. You stay, he replies. Not as a guest. As someone under my protection. My breath catches. For how long? I ask. As long as you need, he answers. Or until you choose otherwise. That sounds like a trap. I say honestly. It can be, he admits. If you mistake protection for ownership. I meet his gaze. And if I don't, then it's exactly what it sounds like, he says. Safety. Stability. Time. I laugh softly. It slicks out before I can stop it. You don't even know me. I know enough, he replies. You didn't steal. You didn't lie. You didn't sell yourself to survive. He pauses. And you knelt in the rain for your child. I swallow. What do you want in return? I ask. Lucas stands. Walks toward the window, hands clasped behind his back. I want nothing from you, he says. But I expect honesty and respect for the rules of this house. And those rules are, you don't run, he says simply, and you don't put yourself in danger without telling me. I think of the life I've been living, always running, always reacting. That's it. I ask. That's enough, he replies. The weeks that follow feel unreal. A routine forms. Noah starts tutoring in the mornings. I help in the kitchen, not because I'm asked to, but because I need to feel useful. Luca never stops me, never assigns me tasks either. He watches, not possessively, protectively. I learn things without asking. That Luca grew up poor, that he built his empire with ruthless discipline, but never forgot hunger, that he doesn't allow drugs near his people, that children are untouchable. That loyalty, once earned, is absolute. And that betrayal is never forgiven. The danger finds us anyway. It always does. One afternoon, a man from my past shows up at the gates. My ex-husband. Drunk. Angry. Desperate. He shouts my name. The guards don't move until Luca arrives. I stand frozen in the entryway, Noah behind me. He has no claim here. Luca says calmly to the guards. That woman is mine, my ex slurs. She owes me. Luca steps forward. The air changes. You will leave, he says. Now. You don't know who I am, the man spits. Luca smiles faintly. That's the problem, he replies. The man leaves. Not because he's forced. Because he's afraid. That night, I shake. I don't want to admit how close I came to losing everything again. Luca finds me on the terrace. I didn't ask you to deal with that. I say. No, he agrees. You asked for shelter. And this is more. Yes, he says quietly. Because storms don't always sound like thunder. That's the first time I cry in front of him. He doesn't touch me. He just stands there until I stop shaking. The shift between us happens slowly. Respect deepening into trust. Trust softening into something warmer. We talk late at night sometimes, about Noah, about choices, about the weight of responsibility. He never crosses a line. That's why it becomes impossible to ignore when I want him to. One evening, months later, I tell him, I can leave now. I say, I have savings, work, options. He studies me. And do you want to? I hesitate. No, I admit. But I don't want to stay because I'm afraid. Good, he says. Then stay because you choose to. The choice is mine. That's the difference. The ending doesn't come with gunfire or sirens. It comes quietly. A year after the storm. Noah calls Luca uncle without being prompted. The staff accepts me as family. The house feels lived in. And one evening, Luca hands me a document. Not a contract. A deed. To a small property, he explains. In your name. No strings. I stare at it, stunned. You don't have to. I know, he says. That's why I did. I look at him. At some point, I say softly, you'll have to tell me why. He meets my gaze. Because when you asked for one night, he says, you reminded me who I was before power made me forget. I step closer. Not out of fear. Not out of gratitude. Out of want. This time, when he touches me, it's careful. Questioning. I nod. And he pulls me into his arms like it's something he's been holding back for far too long. We don't rush love. We build it. Slowly. Deliberately. Safely. I never planned to knock on the Mafia's door. Never planned to trust a man like Luca. But sometimes survival doesn't just save you. Sometimes it delivers you somewhere you were meant to be all along. I asked for one night. He gave me shelter. And in the end, he gave us a future.